What's good, folks? In today's video, I finally got my hands on the Nightwave BASMU augment. I know, I'm late to the party. I just don't bother with Nightwave nowadays. Yeah? What does this augment do? For one, it gives you bonus base damage and status chance per 75 health. So you need a total of 1,350 health to give you the max of 360% for both modifiers. Now, when you use this augment, the first thing you think of is a healthy Warframe, like Wisp, Naros, your mom, and or Chroma. But all of those frames offer one thing or nothing at all that will really benefit the BASMU. So for that, let's have a look at the BASMU stats. This weapon has two firing modes. The primary mode fires projectile shots that explode on impact to deal heat damage, and a dual beam secondary fire that has a very small beam length, which is unfortunate. However, that's not where all the downsides end though. It does suffer in the magazine department with a low magazine of 21. It would be okay, but it blows its load way too quickly, and you'll be spending your time reloading for the most part. And it's a battery weapon with a recharge time of 2.5 seconds, nearly 3 whole seconds. And battery weapons can become even more tedious with its delay and charge time. And finally, the biggest downside is its low crit rate of 15% on its primary and a whopping 5% on its alternate fire. Now, if you saw the thumbnail and watching the background footage, you already know how I've ended up fixing these issues. And that's with the Warframe HARROW. But now, some of you might jump in and ask, but why HARROW? He doesn't have that much health. You're right. That doesn't mean you can't mod for it or even use arcanes. And HARROW has very low requirements in his kit to make him function, and you can literally run with a base strength build and still be very beneficial to your build and your team. So why HARROW in particolare? It's mainly because of his second and fourth ability. The second ability will enable the weapon in 3 ways. This ability grants you fire rate, attack speed as well, and reload speed. So we don't ever need to mod for any of those modifiers on the weapon itself. And on top of that, it heals us. Why would that be useful on BASMU? For one, I can easily run the Aura Combat Discipline, and with that, we have an easier time triggering the Arcane Avenger. This grants you a flat 45% crit rate on all your weapons. This is flat crit. It is applied on top of all of your built-up crit chance modifiers. And for even more crit consistency, this is where the fourth ability comes in. Now, for more elemental damage, debuffing, and energy, here is our most overused Helminth to ever exist. Nourish! This way we have different elemental damage on our weapons to deal varied damage and shred enemies. A reminder to all, this is a Warframe and weapon synergy, so without this combination, you're not going to get the same results, alright? And I always implore people to do a Warframe and weapon synergy. That way you can bring out a new potential for that random weapon that you probably never touched in ages, or even drastically boost the damage and utility of a really strong weapon. So, now that you've gotten how this is going to go down, let's have a look at how I put it all together. Taking a look at the build. First, let's start off with the Archon Shards. Now, you may look at this and be like, why do you need all of these? This is just for personal preference. I have 5 Tauforge casting speed shards, right? This just makes HARROW feel so much smoother. This is all because of his fourth ability. Now, let me actually demonstrate this on another HARROW. So let's go to my old HARROW. So without the casting speed, this is his fourth ability. Okay? Not that great, right? Very long animation. Now, one way to fix this is, of course, putting a bunch of casting speed, or you can animation cancel. How do you do that? You press the fourth ability and double tap to your escape menu. That's one way to do it if you don't have casting speed shards. Now, it can be annoying for those who don't want to spam that, so this is why I went for the comfort pick. However, you can still do this with 2 casting speed shards and use the rest for any other utility you want. Shields, health, strength, duration, whatever you want. But for my personal playstyle, I just like to have all of these casting speed shards, because that way I can just press the fourth ability and get into action. And because I'll be using the Matter Focus School, I can get Power Transfer and, of course, Sling Strength. Now, what does that do? Transferring in and out of your Operator or Drifter will give you the 50% casting speed. So if you do that, press the 4th ability, it's even faster, slightly faster, right? So that adds quality of life. Otherwise, just 2 casting speed and anything else you want, which is up to you. As you know, the 2nd and 4th ability are going to buff this weapon quite a bit. But let's show you the rotation on how to start off your attack. As you can see, with my current health pool of 1,258, I have a modifier of 320% on the BASMU Augment. So now let me show you the rotation of activating your abilities. I am using Arcane Concentration, so every time you cast an ability, your subsequent cast will gain a 60% duration increase. So I would usually use my first ability as a fodder ability to then activate my other abilities. So let me show you how this looks like. So we're going to go up against the Corrupted Heavy Gunners, cast my first, do that, cast Nourish, second ability, and my first ability again to regain all my shields because I did cast my second ability. So we're going to let the weapon ramp up. There you go. Very, very, very powerful. That's it. This is the synergy. But if you want to increase all of your damage altogether, make sure to use your Void Sling before you cast anything. So let's do that again. Okay, we ramp up our BASMU, and when we get out of our ultimate, you'll see that we have our damage increase with the crits. There you go. Pretty decent. And this is with the enemy's pawns. As you can see, we're proccing a bunch of status effects, and I'll show you how we're doing that. Look at that. Look at all those things. And of course, we have Blast, and when that explodes, boom, we get that chain reaction explosion. This increases the AoE of BASMU. Now to know how this is done, let's have a look at Harrow first. I have Arcane Concentration for the increase in duration for each cast. So reminder, fodder ability, and follow up with any of the other abilities that you want to the duration to be buffed. And the second Arcane is Arcane Avenger for the flat 45% crit chance. This states on damage. That means any type of damage, even your overguard. So your health, your shields, overguard, any sort of damage. But for the sake of consistency, so I don't have to get hit from enemies, I'm running Combat Discipline. This states when you kill enemies, you lose health. Even though it says this lose health counts as damage taken. So this is why it's able to trigger Arcane Avenger. Strength at 278% because of the double Umbral combo. If you combine the Umbral mods, it increases the effect of the mods. So we get increased health and we get increased strength. This is pretty much a Transient Fortitude here without any negatives. And then the last 2 strength modifiers are Blind Rage. Again, I'm running Nourish, so I don't have to worry about negative efficiency, and Augur Secrets. I would have loved to run Transient Fortitude, however, I don't want to lose as much duration, even though I'm running Arcane Concentration, because less time casting, the better, right? And to have a decent amount of health, I do have the double Umbral, Nero's Hatred, this gives me duration and some health, and finally Prime Vigor, this gives me both shields and health. Shields are also really important for the second ability because its duration scales on both shields and your modded duration. And of course, Prime Continuity for even more duration. With this setup, I have no negatives on my range nor duration, except efficiency, but that doesn't matter because we have Nourish. So this is your plug and play version. We get 320% with this setup alone. As you can see, this one states it's BASMU 90%. So we don't get the full 360, but 320. If you want the full 360, that requires you to stay in a mission a bit longer. Now onto the BASMU build. Reminder, we have Nourish, so we already have Viral. The weapon itself has electricity, right? And deals AoE heat. And I've modded it like so. On the arcanes, I have Primary Debilitate. This is one of the new arcanes, and it's a very powerful one. So if you apply 10 stacks of a combined element, right, you have a 100% chance to inflict one of the base elemental damage modifiers that combined element is composed of. Meaning, if I have Viral, and I shoot an enemy and I get 10 stacks of Viral, I apply Toxin and Cold. If I have Blast, I'm applying Cold and Heat. Magnetic applies cold and electric. So I gain a lot of cold and crowd control. As you can see, if I shoot an enemy right now, combined element, right there, I get a bunch of heat, electricity, all that stuff. Very nice. If I do nourish, now I gain toxin as well. And this will shred enemies very quickly. So this is the primary mode. And this is the alternate fire beam. But it's going to do the little chain here. And then we have a bit more AoE thanks to the electric status effect and the blast explosions. Okay, debilitate, very powerful. Usually people say you can run Crux to fix the ammo issue with reloading and all that. But because I'm using Harrow, I don't have to worry about that. And of course, don't forget the augment, Dreadful Killshot. This gives us the base damage and status chance. Crit damage. You can see the alternate fire here has a massive crit damage multiplier. So whenever we land a critical hit, we're multiplying all of our damage. And have a look at what we're also doing with the magazine department. I'm running Wildfire here for the heat. This also gives us magazine capacity. And I have magnetic capacity here for the magnetic and magazine. And finally, Prime Magazine Warp. So we get a total of 45 bullets. Now, if you want to increase your damage slightly for specific factions, you could drop your magazine slightly, but have a look. It drops down to 37 and you can run a faction damage mod here if you want to do that. I tried running the faction damage mod instead of this one, but I noticed the damage was just not that great. So if you were to replace a mod for faction damage, magnetic capacity. And the Exilus here is just here for the Vigilante set bonus. Otherwise, you don't really need an Exilus. Exilus mods are so bad that there's nothing good to use for this particular weapon. Even though it has a beam mode, you cannot run the Exilus to increase its beam length, which is really stupid. But let's have a look at how we buff the Vigilante set mods a bit more. On our companion, I'm running the Worm Prime here. This is for additional shields, shield regen, and of course, cleanses me of a status effect every couple of seconds. The build is as follows. Guardian, if our shields break, instantly refreshes. And because we're dealing multiple status effects, I'm easily able to trigger Manifold Bond to reduce the cooldowns of my abilities. I also have Negate for the cleanse, Shield Charger, this increases my shield pool, and shield regeneration, Reinforced Bond. If our companion exceeds 1,200 shields, easily done, I gain more fire rate. Very nice. Now, if my companion has crit chance over 50%, I gain a crit damage increase. That further increases the damage on my BASMU. So let's have a look at how we're achieving that with the Volcox. Volcox here, easily over 50% with just a critical delay. And it's filled with the other Vigilante mods to increase the chances of me hitting a newer critical tier. And hitting a newer critical tier, we multiply our crit damage. And now my secondary weapon here is just for some additional utility. It's just here to have Amalgam Barrel Diffusion and the 2 Auger mods. That's about it. So if I want some additional shield regen, easily done. And whenever I cast an ability and I have shields, it overflows into overshields. As you can see right there, we're in the purple tier of shields. Now you already saw the 90% version of the BASMU, which gives us 320%. So let me demonstrate the 100% buff of the BASMU. And as you can see, when we pick up health orbs, you're not going to get health orbs when you start a mission, but we pick up health orbs, we buff ourselves with Arcane Blessing to grant us the max of 360%. This particular build requires a bit more of a build-up. So this is only suited for longer missions if you're doing survival, whatever, right? And taking a look at the build, we're not running concentration, however, we're running Arcane Blessing. And when we pick up health orbs, we gain increased health. This stacks up to 1,200 health. Plus our base of 370, we're overcapped, baby. Now, the build is slightly different. We did replace the Umbral mods, and we're running Transient Fortitude on this setup. And instead of Prime Vigor, I'm running Prime Redirection. So we're focusing a lot on the shields. And we have Narrow Minded, 2 off from the max. This gives us 81% duration. Of course, we do lose some range. I'm counteracting that slightly with Stretch. Transient Fortitude for the increase in strength, but minus duration. Blind Rage. So this is our strength combo, including Umbral Intensify. We get a lot of viral damage, and we get a lot of reload speed and fire rates. Now, for better consistency, we do have to change our companion. And for the companion, I'm running the Panzerwelpe here. And the only difference is I'm running Synth Deconstruct. Enemies injured by the companions have a 25% chance to drop health orbs when killed. This doesn't necessarily mean the companion has to kill. It just needs to damage them. This counts as an assist. So when they're damaged by the companion, there you go. We got some health and we're stacking Arcane Blessing. Now, there was some testing saying Equilibrium will make this better, but I didn't find a big difference. So usually if you're in a mission, it's going to take about 1 to 2 minutes to fully stack up Arcane Blessing. So again, this is why this setup is for the long run. But for quick and easy missions, you can use the other loadout, which is way faster. It's just more plug and play, and the one that I would recommend to use over this one. Anyway, folks, that has been it from me. I do hope you enjoyed and learned something from this video. If you did, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe. For more Warframe content, streams, and so much more, do refer to the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, a peace. Bye-bye now.